Hello guys, welcome to the BCG Consultants. I'm Rizwan with you. We are going to speak about the cost reimbursable contracts today. Let's begin with that without wasting a moment further. Okay guys, so first thing first, let us try to define what cost reimbursable contracts are. So they are the contracts in which the seller is paid for the actual cost plus a profit, and this profit is normally uh, an agreed percentage of this incurred cost, and this percentage is decided while the contract is signed between the two parties. So what is the situation, or in which scenario we should opt for the cost reimbursable contract? So the answer to this question is when you cannot detail or define the scope or requirement well, you will be using cost reimbursable contracts. Or if you think the associated risks are high, then you can opt for the same again. So guys, I think noticeable here in this type of contract is, as we said, the scope of work cannot be defined well, right? So that means due to this reason I cannot decide the final cost of the contract. That's why I am going to pay the actual cost incurred, because I'm unknown. I don't know that how much cost will be the final cost, because I don't have clear requirement or clear scope of work. So that means if your the final cost of the contract is not known and you have to pay the actual incurred cost to a supplier, so in this particular situation the buyer is on risk. Why? Because supplier can manipulate you for the expenses due to this particular factor, the actual cost incurred. So in this type of contract, you have to uh, keep an eye onto the expenses or bills which are being furnished by the supplier for the actual costs. Be careful. So let's have a look on the types of cost reimbursable contracts. So as per PM book, we have three types of the cost reimbursable contracts. The first one going out to be the cost plus fixed fee contracts, then cost plus incentive fee, and then cost plus award fee. Let's have a look in the detail. The first type of cost reimbursable contracts is cost plus fixed fee contracts. Actually, this is the purest form of cost reimbursable contracts itself, because as per definition of cost reimbursable contracts, we said that it's the type of contract in which the seller is paid the actual cost incurred and a fixed fee. This is definition of cost reimbursable contracts, and you can see the same definition appears for the cost plus fixed fee contracts as well. So the cost plus fixed fee contracts are the purest form of cost reimbursable contracts. So example is like, let me say, if I ask a vendor to manufacture a computer table for me, so please do memorize that I am opting for the cost plus fixed fee contract. So as per this type of contract, I will be paying all the actual costs incurred by the vendor to manufacture the computer table plus 25% as the fixed fee. So let me say that particular vendor, he has furnished uh, a total cost accumulating to 150 US dollars. So what will be the final price of the contract? So 150, the actual cost incurred. So and 25% of the cost will be profit. So 25% is, here you go, 32.5. So the total price, contract price becomes 187.5 US dollars for this particular example. So do memorize this thing, how you can find out the final contract price, because exam may ask you to calculate this one as per given situation, like this example. Okay, let's try to list down some characteristics of the CPFF contracts. The first one, as we said earlier, is going out to be the fee is normally a percentage of the initial estimate of the project or the requirement or the acquisition or procurement, whatever. The second one, the fee is paid only for the completed works. It is not paid for the works which are declared incomplete or remain incomplete. And the fee doesn't change unless the scope changes. And the last one, and the important one regarding these types of contracts is going out to be fee is not tied to the seller's performance. Either the seller is performing well or not well, the fee will not be changed at all. The second type of cost reimbursable contracts is going out to be the CPIF or cost plus incentive fee contracts. These are the types of contracts in which the salary is paid for the actual cost incurred and an incentive fee. Now this incentive fee is based on some objective which is predefined between the two parties while the contract is being signed. So the thing to memorize is you have to pay the actual cost incurred and an incentive fee. Now this is not the thing that incentive will be always in the form of incentive. I mean to say, in some cases, if you have performed well for the services you are hired for, so you may win an incentive as a supplier, but if you didn't perform well, you may get penalized as well. They are very similar to those of fixed price incentive fee contracts. So the concept remains the same, uh, except this part, the fixed price. In this type, you are paying the actual cost incurred plus incentive fee. An example can be, so to complete, the cost to complete computer table is 150, but if the supplier completes is for less than 100 US dollars, an additional $10 will be given to the supplier as an incentive. Let's have a look onto the some characteristics of the CPIF contracts. So in this type of contracts, fee is now tied to the supplier's performance. If he performed well, he may win an incentive, while if he performed poor, he will get penalized. And incentive is tied to some pre-agreed criteria, like the way how you will uh, evaluate the performance of the supplier, whether it was poor or good. So there is a pre-agreed criteria to measure that performance. And as I said earlier, supplier can be penalized as well for not meeting this pre-agreed criteria. If he meets or exceeds this criteria, for sure, an incentive will be paid IF, right? And if he is unable to meet this criteria, so he may get some penalty as well. Let's try to solve an example which may appear in the examination as well regarding the CPIF contracts before moving further. So the statement of the example or the question or the situation given to you is you have been given a contract to prepare a computer table for which following has been agreed between the parties, the buyer and the seller. You have to calculate the total price of the contract if the actual cost incurred by the seller is 190 under one situation and $220 in another situation. You have been given that the target cost is this, target fee is this $50, sharing ratio is 80 by 20, maximum fee can be 60 US dollars, and the minimum fee for the supplier can be 40 US dollars. Let's move towards the calculation. So what is the formula which we will be using? So here you go. To calculate the final fee, you will be using this formula, target cost minus actual cost into the seller's sharing ratio plus target fee. We will use this formula to calculate the final fee for the supplier. And this final fee will be helping us to calculate the final price of the total contract. Okay, so as per given case 1, the actual cost incurred by the supplier is 192 US dollars. So the final fee will be 200. This is the target cost as given, while this one is the actual cost. You can see here the target cost is 200, the actual cost is 190 into seller's sharing ratio. The given ratio was 80 by 20, so 20 goes for that of supplier. So 0.2 is here plus the target fee for the supplier is 50 US dollar. So after calculation you will be getting final fee of the supplier as $52. That means the total price of the contract will be $52 plus 190. It should be 242 US dollars. And moving to the, so in this particular case, have you noticed one thing? The supplier performed well, right? Actual cost is 190, while the target cost has been set to 200. He has expensed out lower than the target. So he has got a reward or an incentive. While in the other case, the actual cost is 220. So the target cost was 200. So he has expensed out more than the target fee. So you will see in this case he will be penalized. So putting the values again, target cost 200 and the actual cost 220. The seller ratio remains the same 0.2 and the target fee remains the same 50. So you are seeing that now the final fee of the contract is 46 US dollars only, and the total cost of the contract will be 46 plus 220, it becomes 266 US dollars. So now you can see for the both cases, let me tell you guys, this was set as the target fee for the supplier. So in this particular case, when he has consumed less cost than the target cost, you can see the final fee was higher than the target fee. So here he got an incentive of 2 US dollars. Okay, but in this case he has spent out more than this target cost 200. So you can see this final fee of the supplier is less than that of the target fee, 50 US dollars. So he has got a penalty of $4 here. This is a very good characteristic of CPIF contracts. Okay guys, so moving on to the last type of the cost reimbursable contracts, they are termed as CPAF contracts or cost plus award fee. They're similar to the concept is similar to that of incentive fee or CPIF contracts. So the salary is paid for the actual cost incurred plus award fee. Now, in contrast to that of an CPIF contract, this type of contract, the award fee, has a subjective criteria. Means there is no condition based on which you can judge either supplier has performed well or not. This is a subjective criteria which has been set in the contract while the contract was signed between the two parties. Example of such contract can be the cost to complete computer table is 200. If the customer becomes happy seeing the product, an additional 10 US dollars will be given to the supplier as an incentive. Now you can see the merit of incentive is if customer becomes happy seeing the product. So what is the condition, how you can evaluate or how you can judge, how you can calculate if the customer is happy or not? So subjective criteria, and do remember these criteria are not subject to the court. You cannot claim these criterias or you cannot claim the award fee into the court. Okay, so what are some characteristics of such type of contracts? So the fee is purely tied to the seller's performance, right? And the second thing is, so incentive is tied to the subjective criteria. There is no way to measure the performance of the supplier in this type of contracts. And another important binding to this type of contract is this award fee is not subject to the appeal into the court, right? Be careful. So let us try to summarize now the whole topic or all three types of the cost reimbursable contract. We discussed that the first type is going out to be CPFF contract. So in this type of contracts, you have to pay cost plus fee. And now this fee is the percentage of some initial estimate. The second type is CPIF contracts. So in this type of contract, you have to pay cost plus incentive fee. Now this incentive fee has some objective criteria which is already agreed between the two parties. And the third type is CPEF contracts. So you have to pay a cost plus an award fee. Now this award fee has a subjective criteria, and we said that this award fee is not subject to the appeal in the court. Most often the candidates, they mix up both the contracts, and or they are unfortunately unable to understand the difference between these two types of contracts, because they include a contractor fee termed as incentive fee and the award fee, so they are confusable, right? So the only difference between these two types of contracts is, in incentive fee contract you have an objective criteria. You can measure the performance of the supplier, either it was poor or good. But in case of award fee, you don't have any objective, but there is a statement only, as we said as an example, if customer becomes happy, you will be given some incentive. So there is no way we can calculate the customer's happiness, right? There is no criteria, or there is no calculation we can do for this situation. So the only difference between the two types of contracts is, in CPIF we have an objective criteria based on which the incentive fee is calculated, while on in case of CPAF contracts we have a subjective criteria, and you cannot calculate your the performance of the supplier in this particular type of the contracts. Thank you for watching the video again, and I do hope that you have very well understood the concept which we discussed today, especially the difference between the CPIF and the CPAF types of contracts. I hope to see you guys again. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, which is BCG Consultants on the YouTube. Um, I hope to see you again. Your feedbacks are more than welcome as usual. Do take great care of yourself. See you. Goodbye.